My own family stopped me at the door and said I was too broke to step into my father's birthday party, standing right outside a hotel I built myself. They laughed, called me a failure, like I was still that girl who left with nothing. What they didn't know was I had been moving in silence for 10 years, building an empire they couldn't even afford to walk into. And tonight wasn't about proving them wrong. It was revenge. Quiet, patient, the kind where you let people expose themselves first. Because the moment those doors opened and they realized who I really was, everything they believed about me collapsed at once. I stood outside the glass doors of the hotel in downtown Denver, watching my reflection slide across the surface as the light from inside shifted with people moving past the lobby. For a second, it looked like I was already part of it, like I belonged on the other side of that door, just another guest stepping into a room built for people who mattered. 2 years ago, this place did not exist. It was sketches, budgets, arguments that stretched late into the night. I remembered standing in a conference room, insisting on the stone, the lighting, the layout of the bar. I pushed when others settled. I signed off on details no one else wanted to fight for. Now it stood finished, polished, exactly the way I had imagined it. And I was still outside. I reached for the handle. Lauren moved in front of me before I could touch it, smooth and easy, like she had been waiting for that exact moment. She did not rush, she did not hesitate. Her eyes moved over me slowly, measuring. "You were not coming in like that, are you?" A couple passing by slowed just enough to catch the tone. The valet glanced over, then looked away like he had already decided not to get involved. Inside, a hostess looked up briefly before returning to her screen, her expression tightening for half a second. Lauren gave a small smile that felt practiced. "This is Dad's event, not a place for you to try something." I did not answer right away. I had learned a long time ago that silence unsettled people more than explanations ever could. "I am here for the event." She let out a quiet breath through her nose, almost amused. "No, you are not invited." The words were soft, but they landed hard. No drama, no raised voice, just a quiet decision being enforced like it had already been agreed on by everyone who mattered. Behind her, through the glass, I could see my father near the bar. He was holding a drink, laughing with a group of men who leaned in like his approval meant something. Investors, partners, people who believed they understood how everything worked. He looked comfortable, certain. The expansion they were celebrating tonight existed because of me. He did not know that. No one inside did. A security guard stepped closer, stopping just within reach. His posture stayed neutral, but his hand hovered near my arm, ready. Not asking who I was, not interested. I almost laughed, not because anything was funny, but because it was so familiar. The assumption, the quiet dismissal, the way people decided what you were worth before you opened your mouth. Lauren folded her arms, her body settling now that she believed this was already over. "You should go home. Save yourself the embarrassment." Another couple approached. They slowed when they saw us, then angled around, slipping inside without saying a word. The woman glanced back at me, quick and sharp, like she had already filled in the story in her head. I felt it settle in my chest. Not anger, recognition. I had been here before. At dinner tables where my name was skipped, in meetings I was not invited to, standing outside rooms while decisions about my life were made without me. In this family, silence was how they erased you. 3 days ago, I closed a $180 million deal in Seattle. I sat across from men who underestimated me in the first 10 minutes and listened by the end. I walked out with signatures that would shape the next phase of the company. No one there asked who my father was. They only cared about what I could do. Here, none of that mattered. Here, I was still the version of me they had already decided on. Lauren shifted slightly, blocking the door more completely without making it obvious. Control disguised as calm. She had always been good at that. "Do not make this harder than it needs to be." Harder for who? The question stayed in my head. The door opened briefly as someone left, and sound spilled out. Music, laughter, voices layered over each other, carrying money and influence in every sentence. Warm air brushed against my face before the door closed again. A world I had built, a world I was not allowed to enter. The security guard's fingers brushed lightly against my sleeve, just enough to guide, just enough to remind me what would happen next if I did not move on my own. I had already signed something they could not undo. I looked at Lauren again, really looked this time, searching for something familiar. There was nothing there for me, only certainty, only the quiet confidence of someone who believed she was standing in the right place. I could have told her everything about the deal, about the authority she did not know I held, about how tonight existed because I pushed when no one else would. I could have ended this right here. She waited. The guard waited. They both expected the same thing, that I would argue or explain or leave. I let my gaze drop for a moment, like I was considering it, like I was weighing whether this was worth the effort. Then I looked back up, calm, steady. They still thought I needed their permission. Inside, my father raised his glass again, smiling at something someone said, completely unaware, completely certain. Nothing outside that room could touch him. Something shifted in me then. Not sudden, not dramatic, just a quiet adjustment, like something finally settling into place. I stepped back. Lauren's shoulders eased almost immediately, relief, quick and unguarded. She thought this had gone exactly the way it always did. She did not stop me. The guard relaxed. I turned away from the door, the sound of the city rising around me, engines, footsteps, distant voices that did not know my name and did not need to. They thought they locked me out. They did not realize I owned the door. I walked toward the street without looking back. Not yet.
Chapter 2. The cold air hit me harder this time, sharp enough to wake me up in a way I did not expect. I kept walking anyway, heels steady, back straight, like none of it had touched me. That was always the rule. You never let them see where it landed. Behind me, the doors opened again. Laughter spilled out, light and careless, then disappeared as if it had never been there. No one called my name. No one noticed I was gone. That was the part that stayed with you. I stepped off the curb without checking the light. A car slowed, the driver staring at me like I was the problem. I did not stop. I did not apologize. I just kept moving until I reached the other side. I turned once, just enough to look back. The hotel stood there glowing, untouched, like nothing had happened, like I had never existed at that door at all. I was not just unwelcome, I was being erased in real time. My phone buzzed in my hand. Lauren. I looked at the screen for a second before opening it. You should not have come. Another message appeared right after. You made it uncomfortable for everyone. Uncomfortable. I almost laughed. Comfort for them had always meant the same thing. Me staying quiet, me staying out of the way. I locked the screen and slipped the phone into my pocket. A black sedan rolled up along the curb a few feet ahead. The window slid down slowly. You always leave before things get interesting. I stopped. Evan leaned across the passenger seat, watching me with that same calm, knowing look, like he had already seen enough to understand the rest. Get in, he said. I did. The warmth inside the car wrapped around me, but it did not settle anything. Not yet. You were watching, I said. I was invited, he replied. That gives me a better view than you had. Of course it does. He pulled back into traffic. You did not tell them. No. You wanted to. I looked out the window. Yes. He waited a second. So why didn't you? Because it wouldn't have changed anything. That made him glance at me. You still think they will ever see you the right way? No, I said. That answer sat between us for a moment. Then why go? I watched the lights pass by, one after another.
Because I needed to see how far they would go when they thought I had nothing. He nodded slowly. That kind of answer usually costs something. It already did. My phone buzzed again. Daniel. I answered this time. What? You actually showed up tonight, he said, his voice already tight. What were you thinking? I leaned back in the seat. I was thinking I built half of what you're celebrating. A pause. That's not how this works. No, I said, that's exactly how it works. You walked away, Alina. You couldn't keep up. You don't get to come back and act like you belong. I almost smiled again. I don't need to act. Then why were you at the door? Because your sister made sure I stayed there. Another pause. Handled it, he said, like she was supposed to. Handled it. The word settled heavier than it should have. You mean she made sure I was removed? You made a scene. No, I said. You decided I didn't belong before I even spoke. That's not true. It is, I said. You just don't like hearing it. His tone shifted, sharper now. You were never built for this level, Alina. That's the reality. There it was. Clear, direct. I let it sit for a second. Funny, I said quietly. I just closed a $180 million deal 3 days ago without you. Silence. Then colder. That's not the same thing. No, I said. It's not. Because they listened. He didn't answer that. Instead, he went back to control. Don't come back tonight. I wasn't planning to. Good. The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a moment before setting it down. Evan let out a short breath. He always like that? Yes. Consistent, he said. That's one way to put it. We drove in silence for a few seconds. You keep waiting for them to be fair, he said. They never will. I didn't argue with him, because he was right. They had already decided my value long before I proved them wrong. Tonight just made it visible. The car slowed at a red light. You signed everything, didn't you? He said. I turned to him. Yes. All of it. Every part they're celebrating tonight. He leaned back slightly, a faint smile forming. So they shut you out of something you already control. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The light changed. We moved forward. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't look at it this time. Whatever it was, it belonged to a version of the story they were still trying to hold on to. It didn't matter anymore. They thought removing me from the room meant removing me from the outcome. They thought tonight settled something. It didn't. I leaned back into the seat, letting the noise of the city fill the space where their voices used to sit. They thought they decided my place. They forgot I decide what comes next. Chapter 3. The air outside felt thinner, like the noise from inside could not quite reach where I was standing, but the tension still did. I leaned against the stone railing, watching the reflection of the ballroom glass instead of the people directly. It was easier that way. Distance always made the truth clearer. A few seconds passed before I heard footsteps slow behind me. I thought they already asked you to leave. I did not turn right away. They did. Then why are you still here? I glanced over my shoulder. Because I have a habit of staying when things start getting interesting. Marcus Ellison stepped closer, studying me in a way that was not casual anymore. Up close, he looked exactly how I remembered. Controlled, expensive, careful with every reaction. You are not supposed to be here, he said. That seems to be the consensus. And yet you are not concerned. I am very aware of where I am. That is not what I asked. I turned fully this time. I know. He held my gaze longer than most people would. Have we met? Not in a way you would remember. Something about that answer sat wrong with him. I could see it settle in his posture, just a slight shift, but enough. I usually remember faces, he said. You remember the ones that matter to you. That landed a little harder. Marcus exhaled quietly. And you think I made a mistake? I think you made a decision a long time ago, I said, and never bothered to revisit it. Inside, Cassandra's laughter cut through again, light and effortless, like nothing in the world had ever challenged her. Marcus glanced toward the doors, then back at me. You know her. I used to. And now? Now she knows a version of me that was convenient. He narrowed his eyes slightly. Convenient for who? For everyone in that room. A server pushed through the doors behind him with a tray of champagne, the music shifting as the doors opened and closed again. Everything inside continued like clockwork. Marcus did not move. You came here for a reason. So did I. That is not an answer. It is the only one you need right now. He studied me again, slower this time, not just looking, actually trying to place me somewhere in his memory. You are very calm for someone who just got thrown out of a private event. I let out a small breath. I have been in worse rooms with worse people. That made him pause. That sounds personal. It was, I said. You just weren't paying attention back then. His expression sharpened. Back when? I met his eyes. When your company was deciding who was worth keeping. He did not respond immediately. You are very sure of yourself, he said. I am sure of what comes next. And what is that? I let a small pause settle before answering. You start remembering. His eyes narrowed. Remembering what? The part you signed off on without reading it. That hit differently. Not emotional, structural. Marcus straightened slightly. I do not sign anything without reading it. You did, I said. You just trusted the wrong summary. For the first time, there was a real crack in his composure, small but unmistakable. That is a serious accusation. It is not an accusation. Then what is it? A correction. He stared at me now, not trying to place my face anymore, trying to reconstruct something else entirely. Where would I have seen your name? In a report that never made it past your desk. His breathing shifted, just slightly. And why would that matter now? Because the version you approved is not the one that exists anymore. Silence stretched between us again, heavier this time. Inside, the music softened, conversations adjusting around it, everything flowing like nothing had changed. But something had. Marcus glanced toward the doors again, then back at me. If what you're saying is true, then someone altered information tied to my company. Not someone. Several people. And you expect me to believe you just showed up tonight to mention that? I did not come to mention it. Then why are you here? I held his gaze, steady, unshaken. Because you're about to see it for yourself. He did not respond right away. For the first time since he walked out here, he looked uncertain. Not confused, not lost, just aware that something he'd built his confidence on might not be as solid as he thought. You are playing a dangerous game, he said. I shook my head slightly. No, I finished mine months ago. That made him freeze for a fraction of a second. What does that mean? It means by the time you started asking questions tonight, the answers were already moving without you. His jaw tightened. You are implying internal manipulation at a level that would require access you should not have. I stepped closer, just enough to lower my voice. I did not need access. I built the system you're trying to protect. That was the first real break. Marcus blinked once, slow, controlled, but no longer certain. I would remember that. You would remember the name attached to the success, not the one buried in the version that got approved. He stared at me, searching harder now, not for recognition, but for damage. Give me one reason I should not shut this down right now. You can try, I said, but if you do, the version you signed becomes public before midnight. That was the twist, Not loud, not dramatic, but irreversible. Marcus took a step back, recalculating everything in real time. You are threatening me. I am informing you. His voice dropped lower. You are out of your depth. I almost smiled. That's what they said in 2017. He said nothing. Then again in 2020, right before everything they built started collapsing. His eyes locked onto mine. And in 2023, I said softly, they stopped saying it altogether. The silence between us shifted again. This time, it belonged to me. Marcus finally spoke, slower now. You said you would remember. I nodded. When? I held his gaze, steady, unshaken. When you realize the version of the story you defended is the one that destroys you. He did not speak, and for the first time, he did not have the option to pretend nothing had changed, because it had already. And this time, there was no one left to rewrite it for him.
Chapter 4. The door opened before I had to take another step. Marcus moved first, cutting through the entrance with that same controlled urgency, but this time people noticed. When someone like him changed pace, the room felt it. He leaned toward security and said something low. I watched the shift happen in real time. The guard straightened, eyes locking onto me again, but everything about his expression was different now. Not suspicion, recognition. A second later, James Walker appeared from inside, moving faster than he should have for a man who never rushed. Late 50s, precise suit, the kind of presence that made people step aside without being told. He stopped in front of me. Miss Avery Varel? Not a question. I gave a small nod. James, we were not informed you would be here tonight. I did not plan to be. That was enough for him. He turned slightly, just enough for his voice to carry. Ma'am, this is Miss Avery Varel, founder and CEO of Varel Group, majority owner of this property. The room did not go silent all at once. It folded, like something invisible had been pulled out from under it. The same receptionist who had stopped me minutes ago stepped back so fast she knocked into the desk behind her. Someone near the bar muttered, "Wait, what?" Another voice, quieter. "She owns this place?" Cassandra turned fully this time. What is going on? James did not even look at her. The detail mattered. "No," she said, shaking her head. "No, that is not possible." I held her gaze. She searched my face like she could force it to make sense. "You are joking," she said. "This is some kind of stunt, right?" "No." The word landed flat. Clean. My father set his glass down, slower than usual. For the first time, he did not look certain of anything. "Avery," he said, like testing if the name still belonged to me. I did not move toward him. A staff member approached me carefully, voice tight. "Welcome back, Miss Varel." Back. Not welcome. Back. That single word traveled faster than anything else. People shifted, conversations stopped pretending, space opened in front of me without anyone asking for it. The same guard who had blocked me earlier stepped aside so quickly it looked rehearsed. He would remember that later. So would I. Cassandra took a step closer, her voice dropping, trying to recover control. "Why did you not say anything?" I looked at her. Really looked this time. I wanted to see if it would matter. And it did not. That hit harder than anything else in the room. "You let them treat you like that?" she said, a little sharper now. "I let them show me who they still think I am." Her jaw tightened. "That is not fair. Neither was the version of me you kept repeating." Silence stretched again. Marcus stepped in slightly, his tone more measured now. "Miss Varel, if ownership documentation existed, it should have been escalated properly." It was. Then it was mishandled. That depends on who you trusted to handle it. He did not respond immediately. Good. I moved past Cassandra then, walking deeper into the room. No one stopped me, no one even tried. People turned as I passed, some pretending not to stare, others not bothering to hide it anymore. Near the bar, I heard it again. That's her. I thought she left years ago. I heard she failed. I kept walking. Let them say it. My father followed a few steps behind. We need to talk. We always did. This is not the place. It became the place the second I walked back in. His voice dropped. You are making this public. I'm correcting what was already public. You are going to damage people. They already made that decision. He stopped walking. That told me everything. Cassandra's voice came again, tighter now. You could have just called. I did. She froze. When? Multiple times. She looked at my father. He did not meet his eyes. That was the first real fracture. Marcus stepped closer again. Miss Farrell, if what you are implying is true, then there are serious internal consequences. There already were, I said. You just approved the wrong version of them. His jaw tightened. You are accusing executive-level oversight failure. I'm describing it. His jaw shifted slightly beside me. Miss Farrell, we can move this somewhere more private. I shook my head. No. I turned just enough to look at the room. They need to see this part. Cassandra let out a breath, almost a laugh, but there was no humor in it. This is unbelievable. No, I said. This is consistent. Her voice cracked just slightly. What do you want? I held her gaze. Nothing you can fix tonight. Then why are you here? I let the silence sit. Then I answered. Because the version of the story you all agreed on is about to stop protecting you. That was the shift. Not loud, but final. Marcus got still. My father did not speak. Cassandra looked like she was trying to hold on to something that was already gone. I stepped back just enough to create space again. You thought this was over years ago. No one answered. It was not, I continued. You just stopped looking. Another pause. Then quieter. And now you don't get to decide how it ends. No one moved. No one interrupted. Because for the first time, they understood something simple. This was not an entrance. It was a return. And this time, I was not the one being evaluated. Chapter 5. I did not move right away. The room stayed quiet in a way that felt different now. Not tense, not loud, just uncertain. Like no one was sure what came next or who was supposed to speak first. A few minutes ago, they all knew exactly where I belonged. Now they did not. Cassandra tried to say something, but the words did not come together. She looked at me, then at the people around her, like she was searching for someone to confirm this was not real. Avery, we did not know. I met her eyes. You did not ask. Her mouth closed again. That was enough. My father stepped forward, slower than before, like he understood that whatever control he thought he had was not going to work the same way now. We can talk about this, he said. We already had the chance. This is not how things should end. It is not an ending, I said. It is just the first time you are actually seeing it clearly. Daniel shifted beside him, his voice tight. If something was handled wrong, we can fix it. I looked at him for a moment. You already fixed it, I said, just not in a way that included me. He did not have a response to that. No one did. The room stayed still, but not empty. People were watching, pretending they were not, listening without turning their heads. Cassandra took a small step closer. You could have told us. I tried. When? More than once. She glanced at my father. He did not look back at her. That silence said more than anything else. I let that sit.
Then I took a small step back, not leaving, just creating space between us, the kind of space that makes people realize they are already too late. My father spoke again, quieter now. "You are just going to walk away? I already did once. And you came back just for this?" "I came back to make sure I was not wrong." He held my gaze. "And were you?" I paused. "No." That word settled everything. Not for them, for me. Cassandra's voice dropped softly. "So that's it? That's it. No explanation, no conversation?" "You had both," I said. "You just did not want them when they mattered." Her shoulders dropped slightly, like something inside her finally gave way. Daniel looked between us again. "You built all of this." "Yes." "And you never said anything?" "I said enough." He looked down. That mattered. Marcus stayed quiet, but I could feel his attention on every word, taking it in, adjusting, understanding more than the others. The room behind them had not gone back to normal. It would not. Not tonight. A staff member approached carefully again. "Is there anything you would like, Miss Farrell?" I shook my head. No. I did not need anything from this place. Not anymore. Cassandra tried one last time, her voice softer now. "We can still fix this." I looked at her. "There's nothing left to fix," I said. "Only things you have to live with." That was the closest thing to an answer she was going to get. My father exhaled slowly. "You are making this harder than it needs to be." I almost smiled. "No," I said. "This is just the part you cannot control anymore." That landed exactly where it needed to. He did not argue, because he knew it was true. I turned slightly, looking around the room one last time. The same place that had felt closed to me before now stood completely open. No one was blocking me. No one was questioning me. No one was asking me to prove anything. And it did not feel like a victory. It felt like confirmation. A quiet one. The kind that doesn't need an audience. I started walking toward the exit. No one stopped me. No one tried. Behind me, I could feel the shift. Conversations starting again, but slower, more careful, like people were choosing their words now instead of assuming them. Good. They should. Halfway to the door, I heard Cassandra's voice again, barely above a whisper. "We were wrong." I did not turn. She was not saying it for me. She was saying it because she finally understood it. The doors opened before I reached them. Of course they did. I stepped outside, the air cooler, quieter, real in a way the room behind me had not been. For a moment, I just stood there, not thinking about them, not replaying anything, just standing. Then, I let out a breath I had been holding longer than I realized. It was not relief. It was something steadier. I did not need them to understand. I did not need them to apologize. I did not need anything from that room. And for the first time, that felt complete. I walked down the steps, each one lighter than the last. The city moved the same way it always had, steady, indifferent, alive. Nothing out here had changed, only me. I reached the bottom step and paused for a second, not because I had to, because I could. If you've ever been in a place where people decided who you were before you had the chance to show them otherwise, then you know how quiet this moment feels. And if you haven't, then remember this. You do not need permission to become someone they never expected, and you do not need to stay anywhere that only values you after it's too late. If this story meant something to you, stay with me. Share your thoughts below, and follow along for more stories that might feel a little closer to your own.